It's Friday, August 5th, and we continue with Week 6 with a doubleheader Friday night. It starts with a clash of the Titans in Winnipeg against Edmonton? That can't possibly be right, but it is. This is a matchup of the best defensive squad versus the best offensive squad, and I, for one, am really excited to see how it plays out. The still top-rated Bomber defense has been forced to make some changes this week, with an injury to veteran, leader, and, as most would argue, anchor, Doug Brown, leaving a gaping hole in the front seven. In order to make up for it, the Bombers will rotate through 3 other defensive linemen and look to Defensive Player of the Month Odell Willis to take his game even higher. Willis currently leads the league with 7 sacks, and the Bombers' defense as a whole is sitting on a grand total of 21. If the Eskimos' offensive line plays the same way they did against Toronto last week, I expect that total to skyrocket. The Bombers' secondary is not a group to be tossed off lightly either. Jonathan Hefney walked away from Week 5 with Defensive Player of the Week, and is arguably one of the best DBs in the league right now. His task tonight will most likely be Fred Stamps, and looking at the numbers, that's probably exactly what Hefney wanted. Over the last 4 meetings between these two teams, Hefney has held Stamps to just 9 catches for 85 yards and has prevented even a single touchdown. But the Bombers' D does have a weakness, if you can call it that, and that's their run defense. Apparently, the way to avoid the aggressive pass rush has been to simply run the ball right past it. As for the Eskimos, Ricky Ray received Offensive Player of the Month, while Jerome Messam took home Canadian of the Month. Ray has passed for nearly 1,500 yards over the first 5 games, but the Bombers' defense will certainly be his biggest challenge so far. Now, he does have a myriad of targets to choose from, including, naturally, Fred Stamps, who is still the league leader in reception yards with 578 after 5 games. But going on gut instinct alone, I have a feeling that tonight will be the night that Marcus Henry has his breakout game. He has been a solid, reliable alternative when Stamps is unavailable, and is sitting right on the cusp of becoming a great receiver. Now, Ray will also have newcomer and former Stampeder Reggie McNeil, but in order to make any connections, he needs time to make his reads. Last week versus the Argonauts, it appeared the offensive line was more than a little bit off their game. They're going to have to tighten up a lot this week if they want to stop Willis and the line from getting into the backfield. I also expect the Eskimos to try and exploit that weakness, with Jerome Messam, as well as Calvin McCarty and Daniel Porter, who returns after the release of Archie Whitlock. This is a very, very difficult game for me to call. I think it will be tight, physical, and all around just a classic CFL game. But you can't win a game with just defense, and the better offense tonight will be wearing green and gold. This one is Edmonton's, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a nail-biter. Now, the second half of this week's doubleheader finds us on the West Coast, where the Riders and Lions will be meeting for what many have dubbed the Toilet Bowl. A combined 1-9 record between these two teams brings up the question, what on earth is wrong with them? Both sides have been playing lackluster football, but Saskatchewan at least has proven they are capable of pulling out a win. On the other side of the coin, the Lions have lost by less than 10 points in 4 of the 5 games they have played, whereas the Riders have lost by a much bigger margin. Now, the biggest story this week has clearly been the signing of Tad Cornegay to the Lions after his release by the Riders, and I'm sure his presence will give the entire Lion defense a boost. He will be playing with something to prove this evening. In fact, I think the whole team will be playing with something to prove. Nobody likes to hang out in the bottom of the pack, and winning at home would be a huge confidence booster for this still relatively young squad. The problem so far has been difficult to pinpoint, but most fingers are pointing towards the dropsies in the receiving corps. If they can figure out how to squeeze Lulay's passes, they'll have more success. Now, the Riders' issue has also been in the receiving corps. After winning against Montreal, they relapsed into an unfocused group with timing issues, miscues, and missed routes. The only bright spot as far as I can see is Weston Dressler, but the rest of the corps needs to step up and give him the support he needs. An offense cannot be carried by a single receiver. There's a reason there are 12 guys on the field at a time. And they will be playing against a relatively solid BC secondary. I'm not sure they can hold it together. It seems that their Montreal win was a fluke, as a week later the whole team regressed back into a flat, lifeless group. I just don't see them being able to pull out their second win yet. Now, I do feel sorry for both sides, and I know how hard it is to sit for weeks at the bottom of the pack. I think the Lion receiver issues are being resolved a lot faster than the Riders, and while a win tonight still leaves both sides at the bottom, it would certainly create momentum for the Leos to carry forward, and I think they're simply more motivated to catch their first win tonight. I give this one to the Lions.